Good morning. Welcome to the 29th day of November 2016 and the Good Life Meditation. I'll have to confess, I'm struggling a little bit this morning with the sense of what would the word be? Almost like, it's not a sense of repetition, it's a sense of monotony? No. I don't know if monotony is the right word either. Just, hesitant to continue doing this for the sake that it's just the same dang my channel's come down to making the same video every day. Let me turn this on. Making the same video every day, which I knew that from the start. Whoa. And I didn't start doing this just to have something to fill up the time. It was really provoked by the utility of the activity, or really a selfish motive. I simply noticed that something I was doing inside my head was done better on camera and done still better when I knew that it would be uploaded. And I decided that I was willing to let my channel burn in terms of subscriber base for the sake of that. And then buttressed up by the that resolve was not resolve. That interest was buttressed up by some feedback that I received from the few who actually do watch these. That was positive insofar as some of the things that I had learned from this process were expressed as evident in others. Others were seeing the same type of thing and maybe helpful in their own life. So what the heck? As long as I'm going to do this every day anyway, then why not keep it up? And I just have to recognize the cost involved. Which is, it's just, as a YouTube content creator, it's hard to watch your subscribers, die away, leave. But at the same time, I can no longer offer what people may have originally subscribed for, which is videos from Japan. And so I can hold on to the channel, just leave it, let it rest there, hold it on the survivors like a snapshot and to put on the mantle, a memory of a past life, or I can continue to try to work the channel in whatever capacity is most genuine in my current life, and that's what I'll do. And so I'll continue making these videos every day, even if they become very monotonous, which has hardly been the case. They've been changing a lot since I started, but I'll continue doing it. But there'll be more. I haven't been able to get out to the desert for some weeks, but I'll be in the desert this coming Thursday night and Friday, so there'll be some adventure stuff coming up as well. Although I have a feeling that this will taint that. Whoa, the light's on inside the big World War II airplane hangar. What in the world? You guys can't see it, but there's a big World War II airplane hangar right in front of me. There's two of them here in Tustin, and these are just dark antique structures made of wood, and lights on inside. I can see through the windows. Maybe you guys can see as well. See the lights in the windows there? What in the world? No, or maybe that's not the windows, that's the fence. But yeah, no, it is the windows. Yeah, there it goes. You can see the big looming hulk of the structure right there. There's another one over there. Curious thing. Wow. So I haven't even gotten started. I'm 4 minutes in and I haven't even started. So let's go quick, okay? Conserve some time. So affirmation of human and civil rights. Individuals have rights that need to be respected, that are applied by the society in its best moments, and maintained by the society in its better moments. And I strive to be an individual that participates in that good and better endeavor. 3 objectives. The first of those is the development and maintenance of good, sound life principles in order to, these are done in order to live a better life in accord with reality and best practices. Vetted out by my own reason and sound judgment. So it's incumbent upon me then to keep my reason sharp and my judgment judicial. Does that even make sense? Yeah, I guess so. But you see what I mean. It's I can't be lazy, because if I falter in my reason or my judgment, then that spoils the recipe for the rest of it. Second objective is the execution of good emotional reactions to the circumstances of life, the ups and downs, the challenges, the trials, to walk with an even keel. When I first started this process, I called this a walk of equanimity, reflective of what I meant by good emotional reactions, to keep that even keel, even as the conflagration it consumes me. I'm reminded of that. Was it the Roman? Was he a philosopher, a poet, or just a madman, who remarked that his life would end in a bonfire that he would set upon himself in the Roman Colosseum? I think it was the Colosseum, on a particular day, a momentous day, a day of celebration, and he did it. So all the crowds of the Roman citizens gathered around in the columns. He built a bonfire of highly combustible wood, or had it built, and then rose to the top of it and lit it himself, and then was engulfed and sat there steadfast and burned amidst the cheering crowd. And of course, well, that's a morbid and in some ways just disgusting image and idea. And what kind of mad philosopher, poet, or madman would do such a thing? Yet to be able to set upon an objective and to hold steady, to be able to stand upon that pyre while the flames come licking up, and to hold steadfast while the pain, can you imagine the searing pain consumes him? What a will. If he could exercise just, and though I disagree completely with his exhibition and whatever, I believe it was an exercise in vanity, to try and secure his immortality through fame. I nevertheless applaud the inner strength to do that, the conviction. Likewise, the conviction of any martyr that will sacrifice, let themselves be sacrificed to some perceived good, or anyone of steadfast will and resolve. Well, haven't I gone on and on? Now I'm up to 8 minutes and I haven't even completed the second objective. So the third objective is to do good deeds. These aren't just willy-nilly. These are deeds according to an alignment with the principles. Thank you. So let me in. Let's get on to those principles, of which there are now 13. And I've changed the language of them a little bit, and I've added some sub-principles and some other bits of nuance. And I'm still stumbling a little bit to get this right. Let me see if I can do it now. The first is the atomic principle. Everything in the universe is made of matter, which in turn is enlivened with energy for biological items like us. and other things like stars. I guess it's not the energy that enlivens the star, it's the gravity. It compresses the atomic nuclei such that they react. I digress. So, but the fact that everything is made of bits and pieces is instructive when we look in the mirror and realize the same counts for us. The bits and pieces of which we are made, of all of this stuff was built inside in the furnace of stars. Probably the atoms from my right hand came from a different star from the atoms of my left hand. And they've been around since all that time, and will be reused again in the very near short term. As soon as I'm gone, as soon as this thing that's Kurt will vanish away upon my death, as the electrical circuitry ceases to function. The second principle is the principle of nature, and the principles of paradigm and firmware. I'm still not so sure about that firmware piece. Nature describes that everything in the universe has some particular nature, and I always pick out something to describe. Oh, there goes a police car. Did you see the lights flash on? He turned on his lights. So he's getting somebody racing along in the carpool lane. So the nature of a police car is to patrol and enforce via the agent or agents that operate it. The police car has distinctive markings that distinguish it from other vehicles, and also has a mandate. Actually, the officer that drives it has a mandate. That mandate is to protect and to serve, as so famously put sometimes, to enforce the law, and to provide a presence that the very presence itself brings about law and order in the circumference of its influence, of its visible influence. Also, the police car may include lots of utilities to that end, such as weapons, equipment, gas masks, pepper spray, maybe a dog, shotgun, things like that, handcuffs, and also an area for transporting suspects in the back, and place for the officers up front. That is part of the nature of the police car, is to be a vehicle for the greater improvement of society through the enforcement of the will of the many, codified in the laws of the society. So that's helpful to catalog the nature of things, which I do a lot, actually. Oh, is this what's going on up here? There's a police officer right here. Looks like, oh wow, something going on right there. Wow. So anyway, well, you and I have nature too, and it's worthwhile to recognize what our nature is, and then live in accordance with it. Likewise, the nature of groups. I'm going to be in a couple of meetings today, and each of the collective groups has a particular nature based on the constituency of the participants, and I'll do better in those meetings if I catalog that, or if I think about that ahead of time. So to the nature of concepts, ideas, philosophies, religions. Everything has a nature, including you and me. Next is the principle of maturity, and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. Maturity is that character of being able to understand how the world works, and have the strength to exercise our will in accordance with that understanding, so that we both know what's about how the world works and can live and act accordingly. So it's the understanding and the activity. Maturity is fostered through wisdom, which is derived from age, and fortitude, which can be taught at an early age. This is why we train young people to control their body and mind, to be able to exercise that fortitude. It's most powerful when executed with both. When we have an individual that has both wisdom and maturity, and wisdom and fortitude, then they're quite a mature individual. assuming that the wisdom is comprehensive. It's in proportion to the wisdom and the fortitude, but that's obvious. Next is the social principle. Human beings are, and didn't I want to add something to this? The social principle? I thought I wanted to add something to that. I did, but I don't quite recall, so I'll just leave it as it is. Human beings are social animals. We need one another to survive. Our best ends are social ends, which yield a very distilled and refined form of good. And I'll get to the good when I talk about virtue a little later. There's my standards feel. Nothing to add there really today. The next is temperance, which is the ability to control our consumption of goods and services. Alcohol, tobacco, food, services such as the attentions of a waiter, for example, to not overtax the waiter. That seemed like a weak example. I can't say I don't have a good example of temperance of service, of services. Well, that is to the point. Also temperance with regard to activities such as work and play, watching TV, reading books, taking long walks, whatever takes us away in excess and leaves us with a life less in balance with what would be expected of a good social-minded individual. Gosh, did I actually say that? Me, such an antisocial guy, actually say that? Yeah, I guess I strive to be that guy, even though it's against it's against my nature, my apparent nature at least. The also temperance with regard to the consumption of emotions, which rise in us like the sunrise, but instead of staring straight at the sun as it comes over the top and blinding ourselves with passion, we just glimpse at it, apprehend what its meaning may be, where its source, and come up with a determination about how to act accordingly, how to act better in response to that, and then doing so. Next is agency and indifference. Agents are anything that's alive. Anything that's alive is an agent. Its artifacts are the things that it creates and makes that give evidence to it. This car is an artifact of agency. So is the sweater, the camera, the bird's nest, a pile of poop, dog poop on the concrete that you step in. That's an artifact of agency. And these things, though they may be frustrating, like stepping in the poop, it's also reassuring. It makes you, reminds you that dogs are around, that we love, and dogs are cool. They're dogs. So we appreciate our agents and their artifacts, and we live most of our life surrounded by these things, such that we don't have to really think much about the alternative, which is when you subtract out all the agents and all their artifacts, you're left with the great indifference, which the great indifference is not encountered in nature, because if you go out to a lush green forest, you're still surrounded by agency. You have to be so fortunate as to go to a place like the Deepwater Wilderness where I hike, where there's few plants, few animals. It's really little evidence of humans, not even planes overhead, and you really can go over a ridge or two and be in a moonscape of just inanimate objects, and you really then meet upon the great indifference, which is a formidable thing. I'm going out Thursday night and I'm already scared. I already don't want to go because I know what it does to me. But at the same time, fronting it and dealing with it is also a very heartening thing and healthy thing to do. And also it helps to recognize why human beings are wont to attribute agency where none apparently exists, such as in the creation of gods. We apply to God the characteristics of a universal agent that fills in the blanks, so to speak, with of all the dark spots of indifference, such that there is no more indifference. It's all God's plan. Very, very tempting and very reassuring mental picture to paint. No real good reason to think it's true, though. No good reason to think it's true. Lots of bad reasons to think it's true, though. Next is the best seat in the house, which is right here, right now. And this is nothing more than a perspective on life where I do not want to be anyone else, or want to be doing anything else, or want to be living anywhere else, but to be all right where I am along the way, even if that means that I'm on the burn, about to be engulfed in flames on the burning pyre of. I wouldn't. That's a bad example, because I think that guy did that. That Roman guy did that for a bad. I would consider a bad reason, for the purpose of securing his fame for posterity, which he did. I'm telling you the story now. I told you to just a moment ago, and it wouldn't have been told had he not done something so outrageous. But what I mean by that is, so it's better to be content with the circumstances that you must, or that you choose to endure for the sake of virtue, for the sake of living a better life. So, going through the motions of going to work every day. I don't plan to retire. I'm going to work until I'm dead. And doing these 9 hours of hard work that I'll do today, which is very difficult for me, but I do it for the benefit of myself and my family and my community and those that I serve through the course of my job. And I choose those things. So I don't want to be anywhere else than in this car on my way to work, facing down a couple of really tough meetings this morning. I don't want to be anyone else other than the person that I am, who's so feeble-witted and feeble-minded in so many things, and recognizes so many failings of my own, and so overcome sometimes with despair at the. I know it sounds like a pity party, but I'm trying to make a point. So many things. There's so many ways I could be better. I could be a better human being. I could be more social. I could be more generous. I could be more compassionate. I could be more considerate. But I'm going to be okay with who I am, because it's part of the nature of who I am. All the while trying to improve myself, nonetheless, towards a better end. See what I mean? It's kind of being okay with the points along the way, not just the high moments along the way. Next is the principle of reason, which is the governing faculty, the ability to examine the world, to gather evidence, to make models and arguments, and then to measure those to see if they're accurate. And if so, then carry on. Continue refining cautiously, tentatively. And if not, then get more information and build better models. And of course, always work with others to refine these. That's reason, the governing faculty, the way that we come to know what's true in the world, and to help us to discern what is not true, or what apparently has no good reason to think it's true. Next is, I used to call this virtue, but I'm going to change it to purpose, with the sub-principle of virtue. Well, it's not really a sub-principle, it's my own purpose. Purpose is, the point is that the evidence seems to indicate that the only purpose that we really have is to pass our genes along to the next generation. Maybe not even just our genes, maybe the genes of our mitochondria, which makes it even a more specific mandate. And if that's the case, then I've already fulfilled that through having my child, and now I just need to finish raising her to successful adulthood so she can carry on and I can die and get the heck out of the way. But so if that's the case, then what else is there? Why else live? Well, don't despair. You can come up with your own purpose. And for me, my purpose is that I've contrived for myself is to live a virtuous life. Virtue being defined as activities and decisions that contribute to the better improvement of the social state for our species and the planet. I like to cite things like clean drinking water, better sanitation, comprehensive affordable education, likewise health care, better communication between everyone. All of these things, I think most people would agree, would be improvements. So I labor towards those. Not as much as I'd like to, but I do. I think that came out all right, if I do say so myself. Okay, next is the path of wildness, which is a way to get unstuck in life. So when I'm struggling with moving forward in life, I get a lot of email from young people who are on the cusp of adulthood, ready, they have a dream before them, but don't know how to embark upon that dream. And I tell them, gather the facts, muster your strength, and go with your gut feeling along the path of your initial inclination, ready to face down the fact that you made a wrong choice and adjust accordingly. Like otherwise, you can just simply stew and wait and settle for until you're my age, and the opportunities have largely fled. Strike when you're young, and do so boldly, even if you're not fully armed with all the information that you might want. And that speaks to the, I should probably group this closer to the risk one. Well, actually that's coming up. Hey, yeah, that's cool. So that's next, actually, is the risk of avoiding risk. It's not just about risk, it's the risk of avoiding risk. Well, I hope I got this order right. Somebody tells me I may have missed something. I think I'm okay. Yeah, yeah, that is right, it is okay. The risk of avoiding risk simply asks us to ask ourselves, okay, we have a goal, we identify what the risk is, and we determine that we're going to avoid that risk by a particular action or inaction. What I simply want to ask is, what is the risk of what risk are you incurring in avoiding that risk? For example, by choosing to stay at home with mom and dad and save your money and not venture out into the world on your own, or to choose to stick with the job that others want you to take and not go live in Japan or wherever the heck you want to live, and live the adventure of your 20s or your 30s. What other risk are you assuming in that process? And I assert that there's a far more insidious and dangerous risk in avoiding risk than the risk that you may, the more surface level risk that you may encounter if you take on your dream and your goal. So to avoid that risk, simply I ask myself, and I'll ask you to look to your nature, identify what your nature is, and then all you need to do is decide to live according to that nature, honestly, according to that nature, and to whatever risks you front, whatever mistakes you make along those lines will be far less insidious and far less detrimental to your long-term welfare than the risks of avoiding that you incur when you avoid living according to your nature. Now, let's get on two more. Oblivion, which is, there is no universal agent running everything, or no evidence of that. And that means that the promises of those non-existent agents offer are not real. And we're left with the fact that it appears that our wiring, when we die, the circuitry goes off and our composition dissolves down to nothing, and we're gone. Another word for that is oblivion, and that awaits everybody. And it's oblivion not just in terms of our body, but also our memory, including our genetic influence. We like to think that if I pass my genes successfully to the next generation, that I'm immortal in my progeny. That's not true. That only lasts about 7 generations before your genes are. It might as well have been the guy down the street that impregnated your wife, or the guy on the other side of the world that impregnated your wife after 7 generations, because your genes within your 7 generations are going to be great grandchildren are as distinct as Joe Blow in Portugal. I wonder if there's anybody named Joe Blow in Portugal. So oblivion awaits. There is no immortality, and also families die out. It's about the same. That's curious. It's about the same. Families tend to die off. Family names tend to die off in their particular lines after about 7 generations as well. You're doomed. We're all doomed. Utterly. We're doomed apparently to return to the oblivion that we knew before we were born. But only this time it's going to be permanent. We'll never come back otherwise. At least that's the way that the evidence, as the evidence shows currently. I've hedged I'll cautiously add that I'm agnostic to the idea that agnostic to the idea of oblivion, but it's the best working principle that I have right now. So I run with that, and that's why it is one of my principles. So you better live now, better live good, better to spend some time developing your principles and laying out some good objectives, so that you can live the best life possible in the only life that it appears you'll ever get, you or I will ever get. Next, and closing in on the end here is this is the end, is the today's willful time management. Trying to use my time better, not just letting this day flow by as another grain of sand in the passes through the hourglass, but taking every one of these moments, the sunrise that I see, it's so cliche, but the moments that I have to their best advantage. It doesn't really mean that you're like, oh, the sunrise, oh, the sunset all the time. It simply means that, okay, I've got some time, some free time. How am I going to use that time? Am I going to look at cat videos on Facebook? Or am I going to pick up and read a page of The House of Seven Gables and enjoy a bit of the incredible writing of Nathaniel Hawthorne? I know that sounds kind of an elitist type of a thing. Sometimes you just want to look at cat videos. And that's okay. If you make that choice, then that's fine. If you make that choice, remembering that these moments may be your last. There you go. So now on to the today's thought plan. 4 things. 1, collect my thoughts before breakfast, which I'm doing now. 2, compose them over lunch. That's where I write the stuff out. 3, record them over dinner. That's where I bring the words and the video together and upload them. So I don't know if you noticed, but down below in the description, every day it's a little bit different, a little bit the same. I include a little blurb, which is about a 1 paragraph long summary of the day, kind of flowery. And then after that, I write out the good life objectives and principles, because they're changing. And then finally die before bedtime. And then today's action plan. I have, again, without giving away too much of my work, I have 2 meetings today that are important. It's important that I'm leading both of those meetings, co-leading the second. And it's important that I keep order, and we have a lot of important objectives to attend to for the projects. We need to stay on track. We need to get some decisions done. We need to have some subcommittees formed to go after some important key things. And I have to remember the limits of my influence, that I can't force other people to do any more than they're going to do, nor should I be able to. I have to be reasonable in that capacity, and remember the limits of my role, and also to not let the emotions run away with the emotions of panic and concern that come up in these things, where I'm worried about the projects and how and their success. And I am subject to panic, and I am subject to anxiety. But to hold those things in check and let them inform me towards better choices rather than rule me. Today, otherwise, that's it. And then after that, I'll go home, enjoy my nice commute home, listen to something interesting on podcast, something educational. Chance to make today learn more today than I know more today than I did by the end of the day than I did this morning or the yesterday, and every day moving forward. Get home, do last night I did 72 laps in the pool. I'd like to do another 72 laps tonight. Then have a nice dinner with my family. I record things through the day that I want to talk about with my family. Last night we talked about a new AI that has been developed that's able to actually make videos on its own. The researchers showed the AI like 20,000 hours of videos without any titles, and then the AI was able to make its own darn video. Amazing. I saw catalog some things, talk about them over dinner, and then take a shower, kiss my family goodnight, get chased by the dog to bed, and that'll be it. Then I'll die. And that's it. Rodden Day forecast. Everything bad's going to happen today. I'm going to die. My family's going to die. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to be disgraced at work, on YouTube. My legacy is gone. I'm going to lose all my money. I'm going to make poor decisions, embarrass myself at every turn, and then I'm going to die again. Can you die twice? I guess you can die. You can die trying. It's so pitiful. Absurd. So I better finish off. It's 34 minutes. This thing is growing since I've been adding principles, so I better get stop being so wordy. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Okay, have a good life. Take care. Bye bye.